Hello, young curiosity viewers. Are you ready to uncover a fascinating story about a country on the brink of an economic revolution? We're talking about Mexico, a land rich in culture, history, and incredible potential. But despite its vibrant spirit, Mexico faces a hidden challenge, a significant wealth gap that has shaped its destiny for centuries. However, a bold new strategy is emerging, one that could transform its economy and redefine its place on the global stage. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why Mexico's future might be brighter than ever, and how it could even impact your own life. But before we dive into this incredible journey, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to Young Curiosity for more mind-blowing insights, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. We love seeing our global community grow. Mexico's economic divide, a nation on the cusp of change. Mexico, a name that conjures images of vibrant traditions, breathtaking landscapes, and mouth-watering cuisine. Its economy, valued at a staggering $1.7 trillion, ranks as the 12th largest globally, surpassing even economic powerhouses like Australia and South Korea. But here's a startling truth. This prosperity isn't evenly distributed. Imagine this. In the Yucatan Peninsula, a region like Campeche boasts living standards comparable to France, while its neighbor, Chiapas, just 430 kilometers away, has a GDP per capita similar to Bangladesh. Two worlds separated by a mere 430 kilometers. This stark inequality isn't new. It's a thread woven throughout Mexico's history, fueling social unrest, revolutions, and even collapse. Today, a shocking 1 in 3 Mexicans still lives in poverty. But what if I told you that lawmakers are finally seeking to mend these deep-rooted issues? Mexico possesses the key ingredients for sustained growth. It's strategically accessible by sea from both Asia and Europe, and shares a land border with the United States, forming a common free trade zone. Now the government is looking to capitalize on these unique characteristics by improving infrastructure, boosting competitiveness, and transforming Mexico into an advanced economy. And the results are already tangible. In 2023, Mexico emerged as one of the fastest-growing economies in the G20. Across the nation, new railways, highways, seaports, airports, industrial zones, and economic zones are rapidly taking shape. Mexico is pouring tens of billions of dollars into establishing new supply chains, strategically leveraging its geography to capture a share of the multi-trillion-dollar global shipping industry. It's a bold gamble, and there are many hurdles, but progress is undeniable, and it's moving faster on paved roads. What are your initial thoughts on Mexico's economic potential? Let me know in the comments below. The Tehuantepec Corridor, a game-changer for global trade? Imagine an ocean-to-ocean shortcut so powerful it could rival the Panama Canal. That's precisely what's unfolding at the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, Mexico's narrowest and least mountainous strip of land. Here, the government is developing a colossal corridor of railways, roads, and ports to connect the Pacific port of Salina Cruz in Oaxaca with Coatzacoalcos on the Gulf Coast in Veracruz. Spanning over 300 kilometers, the Tehuantepec Corridor comes with a hefty price tag of $7.5 billion. The railway itself would take less than a day to cross, shaving and wall, astonishing 12,000 kilometers off the Atlantic to Pacific journey. As impressive as this sounds, this isn't Mexico's first attempt at creating an interoceanic corridor. First proposed in 1907, the Interoceanic Railway, as it was then known, connected Oaxaca on the Pacific with Veracruz on the Atlantic coast. It was an instant success. Global merchants flocked to use it, trade flourished, and Mexico gained a valuable new source of income. Unfortunately, a revolution erupted a few years later. The railway was militarized, then gradually collapsed into disrepair. To close the chapter definitively, the Americans opened the Panama Canal in 1914, And that was the end of the Mexican experiment. Now, you might be thinking, the Panama Canal already does everything the Tehuantepec Corridor aims to do and more. But a lot has changed since the early 20th century. Pacific-bound trade now dwarfs Atlantic trade, driven by export economies like China, Japan, and South Korea, coupled with high demand from North America. Global supply chains have been completely revolutionized. Ships are larger, insurance costs are higher, and queues are longer than ever. What makes the Tehuantepec Corridor viable now is the undeniable fact that the Panama Canal is no longer as reliable as it once was. Water levels in the nearby Gatun Lake are at historic lows, disrupting canal operations. This has led to agonizingly long queues, with some ships waiting up to 2 weeks at sea. Alternatively, ships can pay millions to jump the queue, but this undermines the Panama Canal's profitability as a shortcut. This makes the Tehuantepec Corridor a viable alternative, especially for ships traveling from Shanghai to New York, one of the most common routes in Chinese-American trade. That said, the Tehuantepec Corridor won't actually be faster than the Panama Canal. While crossing the Panama Canal takes between 8 and 10 hours, traversing the Tehuantepec Corridor by train would take around 6 to 7 hours. However, when you factor in the time needed to load and unload thousands of containers between ships and trains, the journey could stretch to 15 hours. Still, 15 hours by rail certainly beats waiting at sea for up to 2 weeks. The Tehuantepec Corridor officially opened for passenger trains in August 2023, though work is still in full swing to renovate the ports at both ends of the railway. In terms of capacity, the corridor could handle only around 5% of the Panama Canal's trade, a modest beginning. But this proportion could grow as infrastructure improves and new technologies emerge. Still, the Panama Canal remains the most efficient way to transport goods from one ocean to another. Therefore, the Tehuantepec Corridor could complement the Panama Canal, but not replace it. What do you think about this new interoceanic route? Will it truly change global shipping? Share your thoughts below. Nearshoring, Mexico's economic ace in the hole. Remember that Shanghai to New York route? The White House is actively looking to reduce its capacity and importance. Since 2016, the United States has been decoupling its economy from China's. Companies are encouraged to loosen ties and relocate their operations closer to home. This is called nearshoring, and it involves relocating the supply chains of U.S.-based companies to either the U.S. itself or a nearby country. Mexico stands to benefit significantly from this shift. Mexico shares a 3,145-kilometer-long border with the United States, dotted with 50 border crossings across 3 time zones. It's no surprise that trade relations between the two are incredibly strong, particularly benefiting Mexico since it joined NAFTA, now USMCA, in 1994. Mexico has strategically shifted its economy away from agriculture and oil to focus more on labor-intensive manufactured goods. The trade surplus generated through the North American Free Trade Agreement boosted Mexico's foreign exchange reserves from $6.4 billion in 1994 to a staggering $214 billion by 2023. This has had ripple effects throughout the economy. Labor benefits have substantially improved, and new sectors requiring higher skill levels than traditional agricultural or low-skill jobs have emerged. As a result, Mexico's workforce has steadily advanced in skill, scale, and scope. Many of Mexico's northern regions near the border have become manufacturing hubs for the United States. This economic activity is even visible on the map, with northern Mexico showing significantly more economic activity than the central and southern regions. That's quite remarkable. But this same map also highlights a major problem: wealth inequality. For example, Nuevo León enjoys living standards similar to some European countries, while Zacatecas, just 400 kilometers southwest, has a GDP per capita at purchasing power parity that's at least 2 times lower. Wealth disparity has always been a challenge in Mexico. Even now, Mexico has the second highest level of income inequality in the OECD. Nearshoring offers a potential solution to help bridge this gap. For supply chains operating between East Asia and the eastern half of the United States, Mexico presents a unique opportunity. You see, along the banks of the Tehuantepec Corridor, there are plans to build multiple logistics platforms. So far, 10 industrial parks have been authorized. These will house manufacturing facilities for the electrical, electronic, automotive, auto parts, transportation, pharmaceutical, and petrochemical industries. This means companies producing smartphone components, computers, and car parts could relocate to Mexico's industrial parks and manufacture the same items, but do so closer to the U.S. market. If even a fraction of these multi-trillion-dollar industries relocate to Mexico, it could immensely boost the economy. Mexico would gain billions of dollars in trade and tolls. By shifting production, nearshoring could also reduce China's influence while reinforcing stability in Mexico, two objectives that resonate strongly with U.S. lawmakers. What industries do you think would benefit most from nearshoring in Mexico? Let me know your thoughts, challenges, and the road ahead. Global companies are indeed attracted to the prospect of nearshoring in Mexico, partly due to large tax exemptions. Tesla, Unilever, Bombardier, Dell, and BYD have all announced plans to open facilities there. Business has been booming. In the first half of 2024, foreign investment reached a record $31 billion. Meanwhile, in February 2024, Mexico surpassed China to become the top supplier of goods to the United States. The resulting ripple effects speak for themselves. In terms of regional economic growth, Oaxaca, where many industrial parks are being built, is rapidly thriving. In 2023, its economy grew by an impressive 8.2%. Nearshoring is working, and not just for U.S. companies, but for Chinese and European firms too. New U.S. laws require a certain percentage of goods to be manufactured in North America to be exempt from tariffs. For example, a car must be at least 75% made in North America to be tariff-free in the United States. This is why Chinese electric car company BYD plans to establish assembly plants in Mexico and earn that Made in Mexico label so its cars can circumvent tariffs. Similarly, the more tariffs the U.S. imposes, the more attractive Mexico becomes for nearshoring. Therefore, Mexico stands out as the biggest winner in the U.S.-China trade war, and this could escalate further. The Mexican government estimates that its industrial parks will attract around $50 billion in private investment by 2050 and create up to 550,000 local jobs. This growth will help distribute wealth more equitably across the country. The regions through which the Tehuantepec Corridor passes, Oaxaca and Veracruz, are some of Mexico's poorest. By transforming this area into a logistics and manufacturing hub, the government aims to create jobs, boost local industries, and attract foreign investors. However, quite a few unknowns remain. The corridor's success hinges on the Mexican government's coordination across federal, state, and local administrations. Historically, Mexico has always struggled with such centralization. For instance, as the corridor passes through local ecosystems and communities, indigenous groups and environmental organizations could raise objections. Additionally, Mexico isn't exactly the safest place for business. If organized crime or political instability threaten the corridor's infrastructure, investor confidence could plummet. This then gives local cartels and fringe militants considerable bargaining power when dealing with the state. So, Mexico will have to control this. In 2023, the government deployed up to 1,000 soldiers at key points to secure an old railway track. Therefore, security is paramount for the corridor's success. Finally, Mexico faces the same complications as other nearshoring destinations: inflated prices. According to the Mexican Chamber of the Construction Industry, when Tesla announced plans for a factory in Nuevo León, local prices for cement and reinforced steel jumped by 25%. Meanwhile, nearby real estate prices soared, and the local minimum wage increased by up to 20%, making labor more expensive. If these trends continue, Mexico could risk pricing itself out of the market. However, despite the risks, Mexico's logistics and manufacturing hubs can yield significant fruits in underdeveloped areas. Renewed economic activity could bring employment opportunities, growth, and prosperity. Poverty would diminish, and a more balanced regional economy could emerge. Becoming the next big thing may take time to materialize, but often the best way to deal with problems is to become wealthy. What are your predictions for Mexico's economic future? Do you think they can overcome these challenges? Let us know in the comments.